The room was quiet, except for the steady hum of the oxygen machine and the occasional beep of the monitor. The hospital wing, tucked away at the far end of St. Mary's Medical Center, was reserved for the terminal patients, those whose paths were no longer leading toward recovery but toward acceptance. The halls were muted here, voices softer, laughter rare. Life was fragile in this wing, and the nurses who worked here knew that every word they spoke mattered. Nurse Angela Coleman, a tall black woman in her mid-30s with calm brown eyes and an aura of quiet resilience, pushed open the door to room 412. She had worked in the oncology ward for nearly a decade, but each patient still left a mark on her heart. She balanced professionalism with compassion, carrying herself with a dignity that even the most difficult patients eventually respected. But the man waiting in room 412 had a reputation, one that spread like wildfire through the staff lounge. Walter Hughes. Once a powerful businessman with a commanding voice and a boardroom presence that could silence an entire team, Walter was, now 81 years old, ravaged by cancer that had spread to his lungs and bones. He was pale, skeletal, and confined to the bed, his blue eyes sharp but sunken. His wealth had bought him a private suite, but it had not bought him peace. Nurses whispered that he was bitter, racist, impossible to please, and cruel to anyone who tried to help him. Angela adjusted her badge and exhaled before entering. She knew the type. She had faced hostility before, not just from patients in pain, but from society itself. Yet something in her told her she was meant to be here, in this very room, with this very man. "Good morning, Mr. Hughes," she said softly as she entered. Walter didn't look at her. He stared out the window where gray clouds gathered over the city skyline, his lips pressed into a thin line. Angela set the medication tray on the counter. "It's time for your morning dose. I'll help you sit up." Finally, he turned his head, his eyes piercing into her. "I don't need help from you," he said, his voice hoarse but laced with venom. Angela paused. She had heard those words before, phrased differently, whispered in alleys, shouted on street corners, written in history. But here, in this hospital room, it was just one man's pain speaking through layers of prejudice. "You don't have to like me, Mr. Hughes," she replied calmly. "But you need this medication if you want to manage your pain." His eyes narrowed, but he didn't argue further. Reluctantly, he let her adjust his pillows and guide the pills to his hand. His fingers trembled, and for a moment Angela thought he might drop them. She steadied his hand without a word. He swallowed, wincing. "I said I don't need help," he muttered again. Angela only gave a small nod. She knew better than to argue. The days turned into weeks. Every morning, Angela returned to room 412. Every morning, Walter resisted. He insulted her, accused her of being incompetent, sometimes ignored her entirely. Yet Angela's demeanor never changed. She spoke in the same calm tone, handled his treatments with the same steady hands, and left the room with the same quiet dignity. One afternoon, while adjusting his IV, she noticed an old photo frame on the bedside table. It showed a much younger Walter, standing proudly beside a woman with a bright smile, their arms wrapped around a little girl who looked about 10. "That your family?" Angela asked gently. Walter's jaw tightened. "Don't touch that," he snapped, pulling the frame closer. Angela backed off. Understood. But she had seen the sadness in his eyes when he looked at the photograph. Later that night, in the nurse's break room, Angela asked another nurse about Walter's family. The woman sighed. "His wife passed away years ago. The daughter, rumor is they haven't spoken in a decade. Something about money and business fallouts. He's been alone ever since." Angela sat quietly. She understood loneliness too well. Her own mother had died young, and her father had walked out. She had raised herself through hardship, through nights of hunger, through the bitter sting of being overlooked and underestimated. Nursing to her wasn't just a career. It was a mission to give comfort she once craved herself. One stormy evening, the hospital lost power for a brief moment. Emergency lights flickered, machines beeped nervously, and the storm howled outside. Angela hurried to Walter's room, flashlight in hand. He sat rigid in bed, his breath ragged, his eyes wild. For the first time, Angela saw something in him beyond anger. Fear. She placed the flashlight on the table, casting a warm circle of light around them. "It's all right," she said. "The backup generator's working. You're safe." Walter's voice trembled. "I hate the dark." Angela pulled a chair closer. "Then I'll stay here until the lights come back." He didn't respond, but he didn't tell her to leave either. Minutes passed. The storm roared. Walter's breathing slowly, steadied as Angela hummed softly to herself, a tune her grandmother used to sing. "What is that?" Walter asked suddenly. "A lullaby," she said. "Old spiritual my grandma taught me, helped me through rough nights when I was little." There was silence. Then, almost reluctantly, Walter whispered, "Keep going." Angela sang softly, her voice filling the dim room. The walls that had stood between them for weeks seemed to shift, if only by a brick. As weeks passed, Walter's bitterness began to soften. He still complained, still carried the sharp edge of pride, but now there were moments, small, fleeting, when Angela caught glimpses of the man he once was. One morning he surprised her by asking, "Why did you become a nurse?" Angela smiled, faintly. "Because I wanted to heal people. Because when I was little, no one was there to heal me." Walter studied her. "You've got a strong heart." That afternoon, while she adjusted his blanket, he spoke again. His voice was weaker than usual. "I wasn't always like this, you know. I built an empire, had respect, had a family. Then, I destroyed it." Angela looked at him. "What happened?" His eyes welled with tears. He tried to blink away. "I chose money over people. I betrayed my daughter's trust, drove her away. My wife died blaming me, and now I rot here, alone." Angela placed a hand gently on his arm. "Maybe it's not too late to try." His laugh was bitter. "You don't know my daughter. She hates me." Angela's voice was soft but firm. "Hate is just hurt that hasn't healed yet." One morning, Angela found Walter clutching his chest, gasping. She pressed the emergency button, and within minutes, doctors stabilized him. When the room cleared, Walter lay pale and trembling. His eyes locked on Angela. "I don't have much time," he whispered. "I need to see her." Angela nodded. "What's her name?" His lips quivered. "Claire." Angela spent the next 2 days making calls, reaching out to distant numbers scribbled on the back of old papers. At last, she reached Claire. The daughter's voice was cold at first. "He wants to see me now, after 10 years of silence?" Claire spat through the phone. "Yes," Angela said firmly, "and I think you want to see him too. Whether to forgive him or to confront him. But don't let regret be the only thing left." There was a long pause. Then, a quiet, "I'll think about it." 2 days later, Claire arrived. She was in her 40s, elegant but tired, her face a mixture of anger and sorrow. Walter's eyes widened when he saw her. Tears streamed down. His face. "Claire," his voice cracked. "I'm sorry." For a long moment, she stood frozen. Then, slowly, she walked to his bedside. "You hurt me, Dad. You hurt Mom. You left me with nothing but anger." Walter sobbed. "I know. I can't fix the past, but if you can, forgive me. I can die in peace." Angela stood quietly in the corner, her heart heavy. She watched as Claire's expression wavered, the years of pain battling with the daughter's love buried beneath. Finally, Claire leaned down and held his frail hand. "I can't forget," she whispered. "But I don't want to carry this hate anymore. I forgive you." Walter wept openly. His hand squeezed hers with what little strength he had left. Angela turned her gaze to the window, tears glistening in her own eyes. That night, Angela stayed with Walter long after her shift ended. Claire had gone home to gather her children, promising to return the next morning. Walter's breathing was shallow, but his eyes were peaceful in a way Angela had never seen before. "Thank you," he whispered to her. "For what? For seeing me as a man, not just the monster I became." Angela squeezed his hand. "You were never just a monster. You were a man in pain, and pain can make us cruel, but love can heal too." He smiled faintly. "Sing to me. One last time." Angela sang the lullaby again, her voice soft and steady. Halfway through, Walter closed his eyes, a tear slipping down his cheek. His chest rose once, then stilled. The monitor went flat. Angela sat silently, her song fading into the quiet room. She closed his eyes gently, then whispered, "Rest now. You're free." At the funeral, Angela stood at the back, watching as Claire delivered a eulogy. She spoke of anger, of reconciliation, and of the man who had finally found peace in his last days. When the service ended, Claire approached Angela. "You gave me back my father," she said, tears in her eyes. "I'll never forget that." Angela smiled softly. "He gave himself back. I just stood beside him while he did." And as she walked out into the sunlight, Angela felt a quiet warmth in her chest, the kind that reminded her why she chose this life. Not to cure every illness, not to erase every pain, but to heal hearts where healing was still possible.